G'day everyone, welcome back. Today I'll be going through my tips for round one, as well as going into Fremantle's match against Adelaide. So I'm going to start with the Adelaide game first, that Freo's travelling over there to play. I'll bring up the team lineup. So we're playing on Sunday. We love the Sunday slot here at Freo. Some notable absences, if you take a quick glance through the team sheet here. There's talk that Fife would be right for round one, but in the interviews I've heard with Peter Bell, Justin Longmuir and Fife himself, I reckon it's a 50-50 call, and I'm going to go with him not playing this week, and I'll take a conservative approach with him. Darcy Tucker, I don't think, will have done enough work coming back from a hamstring injury, and sadly, my boy, Tab on a crab, is out. So after talking about having great availability going into the season, Tabs has done a hamstring by the sounds of it at training. So a 2 to 3 weeker, they're saying. So not a long-termer, but it's just frustrating. This is pretty much what Freo fans have had to deal with. Wilson's also out injured, hurt his shoulder. They haven't actually confirmed exactly what it is, but they sent him back for a second round of scans, which is not good. I think he was on the cusp of getting dropped anyway. There was an extended squad for the last game against West Coast. So I don't think he'll be replaced. I think if you look at the back line I've got there, I think Jordan Clark, Hayden Young and Chapman take those sort of half-back running type roles. So I'll just go without Wilson. I don't think they'll bring in Ethan Hughes or Brandon Walker. There's also a bit of concern around Rory Lobb as well with some ribs. Darcy backed into him into a contest. So it's a bit unsure, like, if he'll get up. So Josh Tracy is who I've put in at centre half forward to replace Tabs and play Rory Lobb at full forward. There's a bit of question about whether Josh Tracy's sort of over a bit of a hip issue. I think he had a little bit of an interrupted pre-season, and maybe they go with Meek instead to keep that tall structure. But I think they'll pick either Tracy or Meek. I don't think they'll go like small and only play Lobb and Darcy. So my backs, I think this is pretty straightforward. Like Alex Pearce, Cox, Ryan, Logue, Clark and Young. Through the centres, I've got Brayshaw with Akers and Henry on the wing. Akers and Henry have been a bit unconvincing. Henry's a young player coming through. He's clean with the ball and is good at that sort of fine inside 50 kick. The challenge I've got is that he just goes in and out of games. I've got the sense Longmuir wants to persevere with him. And so I think that's how it'll go. And similar with Blake Acres, I think he's just got the front running at the moment. He's probably going to keep Aish out of the team. Aish is either going to come in on a wing or a halfback. And I just think Blake Acres gets the starting spot for now. I don't think he's got it nailed down for the entire year, though. Up forward, Tracy I've already talked about. I think we'll have Walters and Michael Frederick there as well as Lockie Schultz and Sam Switkowski in the pockets with Lobb up forward. My followers, I've got Sean Darcy, obviously, is ruck with Sarong and Will Brodie. I think if Fife's available, perhaps someone like Bailey Banfield gets dropped from the team for Fife to come in, and we'll look at the midfield rotations there. I think Banfield will rotate a little bit through the mid or a little bit through the forward, but I think in my mind it's between Crowden and Banfield in terms of who gets that last spot. Pretty confident Chapman and Mundy will play, and I'm pretty sure Collier will get that rotation. They want that sort of small rotation between Switkowski and Schultz and Collier. Lots of pace and forward line pressure. How do I think this game will go? Look, I think Freo will get up by 21 points. I don't think it'll be an easy game with our outs for Adelaide, first game of the season, playing in front of their home fans. They'll want to get off to a really good start. I think Seedsman's still struggling a concussion issue. That happened quite a few weeks ago. He's done the 12 days. I think Led broke his hand and sort of real touch and go whether he'll be available. So those are big outs for them. But really on paper, they're sort of starting their rebuild. We're meant to be coming out of our rebuild and pushing for finals. So this is really a game Freo should win, which always makes me a bit nervous. I think we've probably got them covered in the middle of the park and down back. The forward line is where I'm probably a bit concerned with lack of tools in terms of, are we actually going to hurt them? And if it's a close game, you go into the last quarter and we're only a goal or 2 goals up, anything can happen. So I'm going to move on to the rest of the games for the week. So the first game is on Wednesday of the round. We've got Melbourne against the Western Bulldogs. Last time they played was over here at Perth in the grand final. Melbourne ran away with it in the last sort of end of the third quarter and then the fourth quarter. I think this game will be a lot closer. I've got Melbourne getting up in a pretty tight one, 10 points. I think it will be a bit of a back and forth game. It'll be much better than the Carlton-Richmond games we've been forced to endure over the last 5 to 10 years or however long it's been now. These two teams are quite well matched, and I think it's good they've brought 2 teams coming in off the similar break. You do see it sometimes in round 1 where the teams that sort of finished top 4 last year, they'll play a lower side and they actually get done over, and I think it's just that sort of extra couple of weeks of pre-season they've had to compress and get in. So I think it will be a fairly competitive game. So I've got the Demons by 10 points in that one. Thursday, 17th of March, we've got Carlton against Richmond. And there was a part of me that was like, this is the year that Carlton will finally break the streak against the Tigers. But then reality hit me and said, look, Carlton always start the season with like 2 or 3 losses. So I've gone the Tigers. By only 8 points. I think it'll be quite a tight game. I think a lot of people are underrating Richmond at the moment. And I think this will be the game where I don't think Carlton will embarrass themselves and people will write them off. But I just think Richmond will have a bit more. And they'll get up by 8. Friday, we've got Saints against Collingwood. St Kilda on a Friday night. Some rare Friday night exposure for them. This is at Marvel. And I know typically Collingwood don't play as well at Marvel. They're not as bad as the Tigers last year where they didn't want to go 5 minutes down the road to play there. Think the Saints in this one. And it's actually a hard one to call because Saints are so inconsistent. And I think more when I look at Collingwood, Maynard's suspended for 2 weeks. That's a big out. I just don't think they've got enough firepower to get over the Saints. I think Pendlebury's missing as well. So go the Saints in that one by 22 points. Saturday 19th. So we've got 3 games on Saturday. So the first one is Geelong against Essendon at the MCG. And this is probably the hardest one to tip, but I've actually gone probably with a bit of an upset in terms of the margin here. I've gone Geelong by 30 points. And I'm pretty sure Geelong have the wood on Essendon, but Essendon got over them last year, and this is where they were starting to be this, Essendon got a bit of pace, Geelong are getting a bit old and slow. Will that happen again at the MCG? I don't think so. I think Geelong will just be too big and physical and will bash them up a bit. I'm not really certain who for Essendon kicks their goals. Like, are they going to play a stringer up forward? Are they going to play him out of the centre square? So I'd be interested to see how Essendon actually line up. So that's probably one I'll watch just to get a real good gauge of how both Geelong and Essendon are going to go through the year, because they're both teams I'm a bit sort of unsure about. And then, speaking of that, the next one is against GWS against Sydney. So Sydney derby to start the season. Sydney were good last year, but GWS I think beat them in both derbies. And I remember watching one of them last year, and Sydney pretty much led all day, and then GWS kicked a goal in the last minute to win it. I do think the Giants sort of had the recent history, and I think they'll get up in this one in round 1. They'll have something to prove, I think, GWS. They'll be like, yeah, let's show these guys that we're the better Sydney team this year. But this derby's been actually quite close and not actually very easy to predict who's going to win it sort of year in, year out. Then the next, so I've got the Giants winning by 14 in that one. Then the last game on Saturday, we've got Lions against Port Adelaide. I think Port have a pretty bad record at the Gabba, but actually went over there and beat them last year. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I've actually got the Lions winning by 40 points. They just look like that team that's got the fire in the belly, really want to prove the doubters wrong, and they've got a very good opponent in round one, and they're going to put them to the sword and really show them what they're all about. So I've got the Lions really just running all over Port Adelaide in this one. There may be some sort of early warning signs here for Port. Like, I think it'll just be Ollie Wines without getting much help from anyone else in the centre of the park. So then we move on to the Sunday fixtures. We've got Hawks against North. Very hard game to pick. But I'm leaning towards Hawthorn in this one. I think this is probably just reflective of where I think the two teams will finish on the ladder. I think Hawthorn will finish only marginally above North. But North should really go into this game thinking, we can start our year with a win. It's at the G, but I've got the Hawks winning by 16. I just don't... I'm not really sure about North around sort of like their midfield back line. I think their forwards are alright. Talk through the Adelaide Freo game, and then the last game is West Coast against Gold Coast, and I've gone the upset here. I've gone Gold Coast. And I've been thinking about this one for about 2 weeks, and the more I see West Coast play, the more I hear about their injury lists, all the drama that's going on behind the scenes, the more I lean towards Gold Coast. And I think back to last year, I think Gold Coast actually came over and gave West Coast a full strength or a fairly strong West Coast a bit of a challenge. They went down, but they challenged them for 3 quarters. So it's not like they come over here and absolutely drop their basket and can't play at all. They just typically get done by the quality that was in the West Coast team. They turn it on for a quarter or so, put 6-7 goals on Gold Coast and just put a gap in. I don't think that's going to happen this time. And even with Ben King out, it's where West Coast have been struggling in the last year or so is the in and under contested work. And Gold Coast actually have some guys that can play contested footy and take it to West Coast. So that's probably the upset of the round that I'm going for, Gold Coast there. I've tipped 3 away teams. So that's Richmond, Freo and Gold Coast. Every other tip I've got the home team. And round one's a bit hard to pick. I think the best I've ever done in round one is 5. So I'm looking forward to footy finally starting again. I'm really hoping Freo get up over Adelaide. And what I'll be doing from here on is I'll be doing a review of the game, of just the Freo game, likely on the sort of Monday, Tuesday, depending on when they play. And then I'll do a preview for the game on sort of Thursday, Friday when the teams come out. I much prefer to already have the teams coming out, but this is the start of the year. There's no game to review, and the round starts on Wednesday. So this will just be a little bit different for round one. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I hope Freo get up. All right, let's go boys. Go Freo.